Hello everyone, my name is Dustin with Marcel Technology, and today we're starting our new series called Know Your Marketplace. This is week 1 of 4. We'll be talking about your safety when it comes to online shopping, your bank accounts online, your credit cards, things of that nature over the next 4 weeks. But today is week 1, which is called Guarding Your Stall. Every merchant in a bazaar locks up before they walk away, and today we're going to do the same for your bank account. One lock, one alert, and one habit at a time. So what's the big idea? Well, your bank account is your stall in the marketplace. This is where everything happens. When you purchase something, it comes from your bank account. When you log in to look at something, you're actually logging into your bank account. So we want to make sure it's secure. A merchant who leaves their stall unlocked overnight doesn't get to be surprised when something's missing from it. And the banking online works the same way. A few honest habits do almost all the guarding on behalf for us. So guarding your stall isn't about being scared of your phone. It's about locking a door you already have access to. Most banking fraud doesn't start with a hacker breaking in. It starts with someone being talked into handing the keys over. So that's a big part. 99% of the time, it starts with someone actually giving them the access they need for the account. So 4 small habits this morning will guard more than any app ever could on its own. You already lock your front door without thinking twice when you leave for the day. By the end of today, locking your bank account will feel just as automatic for you. So here's the 6 stops through the bazaar today when we look about making sure our accounts are locked down. So we're going to lock the stall. We're going to turn on banking app's own fingerprint or face lock. We're going to be looking at the night watchman, turning on alerts so trouble reaches you the moment it happens. It could be email or notifications. We'll look at the real bazaar or a copycat. We'll spot your bank's real app and website from a lookalike. We'll look at what they never ask you, the handful of things a real bank employee will never request from you, and then we'll look at reading the ledger, a once-a-week look at your statement that catches what alerts miss. Finally, at the end of the lesson, we'll do the 4 habits to lock in before you leave that you can start practicing to be more secure. Nothing here costs money, and nothing here takes more than a few minutes. Small locks with a big difference when it comes to your safety. So step 1. Here we're going to be doing putting a second lock on the actual stall. So your phone already has a lock screen. Your banking app can have its own as well. So even an unlocked phone doesn't hand over your account. That's important. Sometimes people can guess as a 4-digit number that you have on your phone, or you scanned your face and you didn't know about it, and you put your phone down for a second to go use the restroom or whatever, and you don't know what can happen in those few seconds. Someone can be very malicious. So we want to put an extra lock on the actual stall. Most bank apps and credit card providers make you have authenticate before you even use the app, and that's a safety thing. But we want to make sure we put a second lock on there just to be a little bit more safe and a little bit easier for us to actually get access to our our bank account information. So on an iPhone, you can open your banking app's own settings and look for Face ID or Touch ID. And what that means is you're going to be clicking your actual bank app, logging in, and making sure that you go to settings and turning on your Face ID or Touch ID. You'll turn it on once, and then every future login uses your face or fingerprint instead of typing a password. It's a good way to be able to actually unlock your banking app on the fly there. So you just go into settings in your bank. Sometimes when you're actually logging into your bank provider on the app, use a little toggle button. Sometimes you can actually toggle that to say unlock for Face ID, and it'll go ahead and usually send you some sort of contract that says, hey, agree to this before you can do that. And you would say okay for that, and then you've got Face ID or Touch ID for your actual app there. So it's a good way to, not only is it a shortcut, it's a good way to actually secure your app as well. For Android, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to look for biometric login or app lock inside the banking app's own settings. And you're going to do the same idea. Fingerprint or face unlocks guard that app itself. So this is the single fastest thing you can do today, and most banking apps take under a minute to actually turn it on. It's a good way to be able to just unlock your app and be secure at the same time. So we're going to do a visual today. Is this a real merchant or a huckster's card? We're going to give you kind of like a little bit quiz here and kind of an idea of what's actually legit or not. So your bank app, when you actually click your bank app or download it from the store, you want to make sure it's from a verified developer. So when you're actually in the App Store or Google Play, you're going to look for a verified developer, an App Store badge. Usually it'll have a check mark and say genuine app from the actual manufacturer of it or the bank. and you're going to download it straight from the App Store or Google Play. You're not going to be downloading it from any suspicious link or anything online. You go into the App Store or Google Play because both Apple and Android or Google, they actually make sure that the app's from an actual verified developer, so you're not getting into some malicious thing. So you want to make sure it comes from that person. It's very hard to download an app that's not from the App Store or Google Play these days. But you want to make sure it's from a verified developer, because there are some shady apps out there that are trying to trick you. So make sure you look for a check mark where it says it's from a verified developer and everything from it. And you want to also make sure it's bank's real company name. So if you've got a bank account for Bank of America, you want to make sure it says from Bank of America and it's got their their business structure, and then or it says Bank of America is a verified developer for this app. So we always want to make sure that we're downloading the correct app. Next one, for a text link. Sometimes you'll get a text out of the blue and it'll say verify now. It might be unsolicited, which means that you didn't ask for it. It just appears. And it's usually an urgent link. These are copycats. So real banks won't send you, don't send links to log in via text. They might use it for authentication, which sends you a one-time use code. But even then, you're usually actually logging into your bank account. So delete it or call the number on your card if you're actually worried. I always tell people in class to always contact their actual bank or credit card providers with the numbers that you actually research, not by an email, a text, or someone telling you to. I always reach out, and that would be solicited. You're soliciting, you're trying to get that information, but unsolicited, you always have to be weary of those little things, and they're always like urgent. They want you urgently to do whatever. So these are copycats, so they won't send you links to log in. They might send you that two-form authentication like a number, but typically that means you're trying to log into your account. If you see someone's trying to log in your number and you get a number out of the blue from your bank, that's something to consider, that someone might have your password or something of that nature. But don't be clicking the link. I would contact your actual bank. Go on Google and type in your bank and find customer service, or the best thing to do is just drive to your bank. Typically it's pretty close, and just say, hey, I noticed some sort of security thing. I wasn't trying to log in, and some reason my number was being sent to me. That's why you pay a bank. They'll help you through the process, either resetting your password or whatever it is. They're going to be able to help you, but don't be clicking links just to do it and everything. Someone calls you, so hey, this is a fraud department, they're calling for you. They'll ask you for pins or ask for codes. This is a copycat. A real fraud department already has your account on file. They'll never need your pin or code, so they'll know that, hey, this is the fraud department. They know who they're talking to. They might verify it at one point and be like, hey, we're just letting you know that this is what's happening with your card or whatever. Typically this is all automated these days with texting and everything. And my suggestion is I would save your actual fraud department as a contact in your phone. If you do that, hey, this is Bank of America fraud. Whenever they send you a message or whatever, you know that it came from a verified sender that you have in your contact. If it comes from a random number, you should treat it as probably a phishing attempt on you. That's a pro move there. Just save it in your phone as a fraud department. That way, if you need to call the fraud department, you just have to call the number that's listed for it. And then you'll get to the fraud department that's on your actual credit card or on your bank information. So that's a good way to look at that one. So a lookalike website. Well, we talked about this in previous lessons. If you didn't get to see the phishing one and SEO poisoning and things of that nature, go check out those other tech talks we did. But look at the actual website. They'll have misspelled URLs. So you'll go to it, and let's say you're going to Amazon.com, and instead of having it spelled out Amazon.com, it might look like it, and it might be endzone.com or something like that. So make sure you're looking for misspelled URLs. It's hard to see. You can magnify or zoom in on the actual area to be able to see it, and look for misspelled URLs. Also, you'll have no bookmark. Maybe you're going to the actual website and you've bookmarked it in the past. We talked about that in the series as well, as a way to secure your website. If you're going to your bank account or whatever it might be, always make a bookmark after it's an actual legit website, so you're not having to always check the domain. If it's a bookmark, it'll show that it's listed under your bookmarks, and you verified in the past. You don't have to do that every time. If you see that, misspelled URL or something you haven't bookmarked in the past and you're practicing that security feature, you can understand that it's a copycat. And the thing about it is they want to be near perfect copies of the bank site. They'll have everything but like that domain. So be really careful about it. When in doubt, always type it in yourself or do your own Google results for it. And if you're worried about phishing attempts or domains of that nature, go check out the last little tech talk we did about those under the phishing. I think it's Navigating the Digital Wild is the name of the series. You can go in there and check that series out, and it'll tell you exactly what to look for and a little more in depth. So typed URLs. Actually type in your bank site. So if you're going to Bank of America, type it actually in there at the top of the list, whatever. Hand type it and then just save it in your bookmark. If you don't know how to spell it or you don't know the domain right off the top of your head, you can Google it. Just be very wary of the first few sponsored results. They call it SEO. Skip past those, the very first 3 sponsored results, and find an actual link to the bank site. The best thing to do is, of course, hand type it, but after you do find it in Google, if you don't know how to, if you don't know where it actually leads, is to save it as a bookmark. A lot of these major bank sites will purchase, these domains are similar to them just to try to prevent, people from going to the wrong sites and everything. They'll just redirect it to the actual site. So that's something they do. But the best thing to do is once you have it, save it in a bookmark, and then It's definitely, when you get to check, it's genuine and the safest habit here when it comes to actually trying to get into your bank account or credit card or doing whatever or shopping online. Make sure you type the address yourself and don't be clicking links whenever it gets sent to you in an email or something of that nature. Speaking of emails, reply with your password emails. I see it every day. A lot of clients actually get they get credential harvest, and that's a shame because that means that someone's got their password after that point. But they'll say reply with your password email. So request your password, or make sure that they'll say your reply is required. Like, we need your username. None of those things typically happen when it comes to your passwords. The best thing to do, just like anything, is actually log in yourself. I never click links in emails or anything, especially when it comes to passwords or whatever. I just go to the website and I log in that way. So a real a verification part will never request your password or any reply required. They'll just say, here's your 3-digit number, log in at that point. They'll never ask for your password. So be careful. Copycats. That's a big part here. No legitimate bank will ever ask you to email or reply with your password. That's a full stop there. So if anyone ever is asking for your password in clear text, which is like through an email, just skip that part. Stop 2, we're going to talk about turning on your actual night watchman. So transaction alerts are a free guard who never sleeps, a text or push notification that the instant your card or activity or your account moves. I do this daily for my credit card. Every time a charge is charged on my credit card, it tells me, notifies me, hey, this was charged on your card. It's a huge help whenever it comes to, for managed services. Like, to say if I have an online subscription or something, or there's a fraudulent activity that's happening, I like to know what's going on. So what to turn on. In your banking account, look for alerts or notification settings. Turn on any purchase. That's my suggestion for any purchase, especially if you're not making a lot of purchases every day. And balance below, and log in from a new device. This is a big one, log in from a new device. So now they'll help you identify if somehow your account is compromised, that someone's logged in and you don't know the actual device. It's good to have that kind of an alert there. Balance below is good if you are trying to watch if your balance goes below a threshold. So these are all things that I suggest people do, just so they have a little bit more understanding of how their account's working without having to log in every day onto their account. You can turn it on with a notification. It's secure. And why does this matter? A watchman who tells you the moment something happens beats a ledger you check once a month. It's a shame that some people don't even check their bank accounts, once a year or something like that. They just know they have a little bit of money in there and they never actually check what's actually getting on their statements. And a lot of times, this is where people put in information. This is where fraud happens, especially around major holidays like 4th of July, things of that nature. People are busy, and this is where fraud goes over rampant, in the United States. People, they look for these opportunities because they know you're not going to be checking or you're going to be on vacation and not have access to that. So catching fraud in the first hours beats catching it after a week, definitely. And most banks will let you set a dollar threshold too. Get a text from anything over, say, a dollar, annoying for a week, then invisible until it actually matters. So yeah, I like to put like a dollar threshold, and by security when it comes to like banks, a lot of these do it automatically, but maybe it's out of your normal spending habit. Like let's just say you go to the grocery store and all of a sudden you've already spent $300 at the grocery store instead of spending 100 or whatever. Well, it's going to notify you. So these are all good things to look at when you're under the settings. And each person's bank is different. If you need any help, just go to the bank, where you're actual banking, and ask the teller to help you, or have someone like walk you through it, how to set those settings up or whatever, or have them do it if they have the access to do it. So it's a good way to take advantage of that. So stop 3 is we're going to tell the real stall from the huckster's carts. So we're going to look at scammers built near perfect copies of your bank apps and websites. This is an ongoing thing these days, and these are 3 habits that beat every copycat. So the best way to prevent this from happening is type your bank web address yourself. We mentioned that earlier. Type it up in the address bar. Go on Google, skip the first few links that say sponsored, and then click the web address pertaining to it. Once you find it, bookmark it. And that way you never have to go and look for it again. You'll have a little bookmark there, and you know that it's a you've been there in the past, and it's a good link and everything. Never a link from text or email. Never click a link for text or email. Always do your own research when it comes to that. Before installing that banking app, check the developer's name in that app store that it matches your bank's actual name. Make sure you check that. Keep your bank real customer service number saved in the back of your card, and that's the only number to trust when in doubt. Like I told you, the best thing to do is actually saving your contacts as your like fraud department or customer service or whatever. That way it's saved in there. When a random number hits you, to treat that suspicious. Like, what is this? And instead of answering or calling whatever, let it go to voicemail, and then go and reach out to your bank account, your bank provider, and then ask them, hey, I got this thing or whatever. It doesn't hurt you a couple seconds if you're curious to actually call the bank and everything. So a copycat only needs you to click once, and these are 3 habits mean you never have to. So we don't want you to be a victim of credential harvesting when it comes to that, where they capture some of their login information to be able to get access to your account. So do your own your process when it comes to actually logging into your account. So don't be clicking links and stuff from text, emails, or if someone calls you out of the blue. I always just let it go to voicemail. There's so many scammers these days, it's best to just go to voicemail, and then you do your own research when it comes to that. Stop 4 here, and this is a big one here. What a real bank never is going to ask you. This is a big part of what to be very suspicious against. This is the single most useful thing you can learn today. Memorize these 4, and almost every phone scam falls apart on contact, which is great. They need your full password or PIN. That's a big one. A bank employee never needs this information. They already have insecure ways to verify you. They'll send you a link or something like that, but you're doing the actual conversation. So if you reach out to the bank, they say, hey, we're going to log in, we're going to send you this. This is a big thing with phone providers these days, like Verizon or US Cellular or whoever it might be. They're going to ask you, hey, I need you to click this link or whatever, but you're on the phone with it. Be very cautious about people just sending you a link out of the unsolicited, out of the area, just saying, hey, we need this information of you. You don't need to do that. Typically, you're on call with support, and they'll tell you and everything. If any way in your mind you think it's suspicious in any means, say, hey, I don't feel this is secure. I'm going to go ahead and talk to them in person. How can I do that? Someone that's trying to fool you is going to be like, no, we can do it here. This is the only way. The other people are going to say, oh, well, you can go in person to the bank or whatever and actually do this in person if you feel insecure. So you need to look at those. You can always ask them. The code they just text you. That one-time code is for you alone, always. No employee will ever need that or you to read it aloud. So if they're trying to access your bank account or something of that nature, if they're asking you for that code that's meant for you to log in, that's a no-no. They're going to have access to be able to do whatever. So they're not going to ask you for that code to text you or whatever. They'll say move to a safe account. Real banks don't have a verification or safe account to move your money into ever. So if anyone's asking you, hey, I want to send this money but we need you to do whatever. We're going to put this in a safe account. That's a no-no. That's an immediate. Remote access software. This is a crazy way that people are, trying to get access to your actual computer or device or something. They'll never ask you for remote access software. They'll never ask you to download some sort of app to be able to do whatever. No genuine bank is going to ever ask you to fix something by taking over your screen. So hang up when you have that. Be very careful if anyone's asking you to download anything or visit some suspicious site or anything like that. So don't do that. If a call, text, or email asks you for any of those four, the conversation is over. Hang up and call the number on your card yourself. When in doubt, just call the number on your actual card or your actual bank account. You should have that saved. So stop 5 here is read the ledger once a week. Alerts catch the moment something happens. A weekly look at your statement catches the small stuff alerts might miss. A subscription that crept in, a charge that's slightly off. These are important things to kind of check those every once in a while. At least monthly. I would suggest doing weekly, especially if you're spending pretty often. It's good to know that. What to scan for? You're going to look for reoccurring charges you don't recognize, amounts that change without warning, and purchases from cities you never visited. I've been victim of someone taking my credit card information before they started getting a lot more secure, and I noticed things being in a different city, such as like Atlanta or some other state like California, and you've never been there. So these are things you need to look for, because that means someone's got your credit card information or your credit card. They stole your credit card and they're now using it to purchase somewhere. So the longer it takes, the longer it is to actually find this person. So you want to make sure that you look at your bank statements every once in a while, especially when you're traveling. If you're traveling, you should definitely be doing that in a very secure manner, hopefully on a VPN, on a trusted network, while you're traveling or whatever, or cellular. But be very careful, especially when you're traveling, to make sure nothing's happened. They're pretty crafty, these criminals these days. So how long does it take? It takes you about 2 minutes, and same day every week. You could choose Sunday morning or whatever, right before drinking your coffee, or checking your emails. Just go in there and just check your bank account, see if anything's changed in that matter. You don't need to become an accountant. You just need 5 minutes and a habit to be able to secure your bank account, and make sure you're looking for that. So stop 6, this is a 4 locks to close today. So turn on your banking app's fingerprint or face login. It takes a little bit under a minute. It's a good way to have a second lock on your actual app. You can turn on transaction alerts for any purchases and any new device logins. You can save your bank real customer service number from the back of your card. Save it on your phone in a contact. That way you know it's from your bank. Pick one day a week and give your statement a 2-minute read. It doesn't take you long just to do that. Like I said, you can do it while you're drinking your coffee. None of these cost anything, and none of them make banking harder. They just make it yours. So you fine tune your actual bank and everything. And if you don't want to use your apps or whatever, just don't download the app. Do everything in person at the bank if you're more in that manner. But I always tell people that it's good to have email alerts or things of that nature, even if they don't have the app and they've never set up the app or whatever. It's good to have alerts in that capacity, because looking over your statement once a month is pretty bad if someone's got your credit card and for 3 weeks they've been doing whatever they want with it. That can make it a nightmare to try to dispute charges and things of that nature. So, be very, very cautious about it. If you're not doing online banking, take the precautions that you can to lock down your account. Maybe put a limit on what you can withdraw or something of that nature. But you can always talk to the bank. The best way is make sure you get those notifications. So, and check it, daily or weekly or whatever it is on your frequency. But if you're old school, you can always talk to the bank to try to find solutions for that. So a little reassurance today, things you can stop worrying about. Online banking gets a scary reputation. A few common fears put this in their place. Online banking isn't inherently riskier than a paper statement. It's actually easier to watch closely. So a lot of people think that just because they're logging in, that it's a very unsecure way to be able to check things. It's not the case. You do have to verify and do the things that you normally do to try to log into your actual bank account and to check those. So it's not inherently riskier for it. It's riskier if you're clicking links and stuff that people are spammers and phishing attempts and stuff like that. That's definitely risky. But actually doing it the correct way, like we talked about in this lesson, is not inherently riskier. A push notification for every purchase isn't your bank spying on you. It's the same alert working in your favor. So the system will automatically generate these messages. It's not someone snooping on your information or whatever. It's just the system um, checking those notifications and those little settings that you've chosen and sending it to you. So take advantage of those push notifications. Banks reimburse the vast majority of confirmed fraud. Reporting it fast is what matters, not perfection. So banks will actually, you know, reimburse some of the money if you can check that fraud. But if it's going on multiple statements, multiple months, it's really hard to sometimes get that money back. So, speed is key. Like I said, the major times people do these around major holidays. If you're traveling, these are the things I would do even more frequently. So be really careful on that one. You don't need a finance degree to guard your stall. The 4 habits today were genuinely enough. And it's true. You don't need to have some sort of a major accounting degree to be able to look at your account. Just a little knowledge and a few settings that you can change to make it a little easier for you. The goal isn't fear, it's 4 small locks that turn into muscle memory. So every time you're doing like a credit card or bank account, just going in there and taking a few seconds to be able to secure your account. So here's a real script how the safe account scam plays out. Here's a script almost word for word that shows up in the real fraud report every week. Hey, this is your bank fraud department. We flagged suspicious activity on your account. That's a good one. I could try to now we'll call you on that one. To protect your money, we need to verify your identity. Read us the code we just sent you. We're moving your funds to a secure account while we investigate. That's a big one there too. Don't discuss this with anyone at your branch. It could tip off fraudsters. Every one of those 4 lines is a good giveaway. A real bank already knows your account, never asks for that code, has no safe account, and will never tell you to keep a secret from your own branch. You can always test them and everything. My suggestion is, unless you have in your contact, if you have the information, I always put my friends, family, whatever, anything important, business relationships, whatever, I put those in my contact and I know that's that person. So if someone calls me from a random number, texts me from a random number, it's typically phishing scam. So I always treat it like that. If it's important, they'll leave you a message, they'll send you a letter in the mail, whatever it is. If it's super important, you can always call. Hey, there's some money that got moved out of your account. Well, do your own research and call your own bank on a good safe number and then make sure it's good. Don't fall for these fraudsters. Someone calling you or texting you and trying to get you to download something, don't do that. You do your own research and call. They always use the presence of you need to act fast or something's going to happen. So it's an urgent matter. That's a good giveaway that something wrong is going on. Someone's trying to fraud you there. So for next Tuesday, just go in there and just lock one of those stalls this week. Turn on your banking apps, fingerprint or face login. Turn on transaction alerts, even on purchases over $1. If you're doing a lot of frequent purchases, you can put it on a different threshold, whether $100 or whatever. Put limits on your cards. That's a good way to limit. If something does happen, they might only get 500, and it locks your card. If you're not spending a huge amount or whatever every month, you can always increase it if you ever need to. Save your bank's real numbers from the back of your card into your contacts. Like I told you, that's the best way to do it. Save your fraud or whatever, and once you get that first message from them saying, hey, this charge was on your card or whatever, save that actually as your contact or add it to an existing contact that you might have. Well, let's say the fraud's different, from automated. Give your last statement a 2-minute read just to practice. Just go through there and just check on that. It gives you a little bit. So, yep, that's pretty much the lesson for today. Next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about spotting the pickpockets. We're going to look at fake stores, 2 good deals, and the payment methods that protect you when something goes wrong. So you just finished guarding your stall, which is making sure your bank app's secure, going through and doing a few settings and looking for suspicious activity when it comes to phishing on your actual thing. So if you ever need any help, we're always able to help you. This technology package is a big one that a lot of our customers use, and it helps you keep your computer and your devices all patched up and no vulnerabilities. It does advanced security protection, which is like endpoint protection. This has actually blocked a lot of credential harvesting for some of our customers, so that's a good way to do that. And then having a password manager is a very big part of making sure your online activities are secure. So if you're ever looking for one little easy way, that's the technology package here, and it bundles everything. It's you can secure probably 95% of your actual state of security when it comes to online processes through the technology package there. So, and if you're ever traveling, you should always be using a VPN, or even on the public Wi-Fi. Always use a VPN, and make sure that you're using that to secure your connection and everything. You don't want people being able to get some of your information and make your life a lot harder and everything like that. So, thanks for joining us, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments here on the video. Appreciate you logging in today and checking it out and everything. Don't forget that you can lock it, watch it, and read it when it comes to your bank safety here and everything. So, I'll see you next Tuesday, and thanks for viewing.